It's about Graham time. We hop on another episode. I'm your host, Christian Graham.
And Stephanie Graham.
And
welcome back.
Welcome back to the It's About Graham Time podcast. It's been some time. It's been some time.
Been a couple of weeks since we've shot our last episode.
Yeah, it has. And
what has happened?
So much has happened. So much has shifted in the dynamics of the Graham household and business ventures. So, if you guys don't know already, we just closed down our restaurant, Smackin' Guamanian Grill, as of this past Sunday, March 23rd was the final day for Smackin'. Very bittersweet because it was also the lab's 1-year anniversary on the exact same day, actually. And
when one door closes, another remains open.
Exactly. And that's just, I think that was the exact kind of parallel of what God was showing to us. It's like, you guys are fine. Like you guys are going to be okay. And yeah, we had to say goodbye. At least to the operations within that building, within that physical location. And just, how do you feel about the overall kind of situation that we're in and just Smackin' leaving?
I mean, you said it. It's bittersweet. It happened abruptly for us, for everybody. And I guess a lot of people just had a lot of questions and it became overwhelming because when we made our decision just a week prior and we announced it that by last Monday, it was just, all right, like everyone just rallied to support friends, family, loyal customers. People came down from Cerritos. They came down from Alpine. They came down just all
Mission
over.
Viejo.
They were driving because they just wanted to support us one last time, get our ribs one last time.
Yeah.
And it was just an outpour of love, outpour of support, more than I could handle sometimes. I didn't know how to navigate all of it at some point. Like I would come home just exhausted, ready for the next day, not knowing what it would bring, what it would entail. It was really whatever Smackin' called for. If they needed an extra person or needed more supplies, needed something, right? And then we still had the lab to work out of and our other responsibilities too, and also to our children. So it did remind me the first week leading up to Smackin', and then that Friday, Saturday, Sunday was Smackin'. Like it was the first day of Smackin' and the second day of Smackin'.
Yeah. All over again.
Yeah. And Sunday was crazy because we were sold out of things. Christian spent Saturday night looking for chicken.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of why we didn't even open Sundays in the first place.
Yeah.
Was because by the time we opened, and this is our first day of opening, Friday, June 28th, we opened.
2019.
Oh, yeah, 2019. We opened, sold really good, did really well, right? The 29th came, that Saturday, sold out, right? And by the 28th, we're like, we're sold out and we're exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, we're not opening today. And that became the dynamic for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And until we decided, hey, let's open on Sundays because we got our church fam who wants to eat after church.
Yeah.
And so let's feed the people. And that's when we opened up Sundays. And so to close on Sunday, to close on our our first year anniversary for the lab was just a whole experience where I didn't even realize until talking to Jessica today that it was our first year, and it's things like that where I haven't even processed all that has come.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been kind of just like one big kind of grieving moment, but we're also just super joyous and just rejoicing in the next chapter already, and so like God wouldn't have brought us through it if like he didn't think that we can handle it, or he didn't like already prepare us for the next steps, right? And so um we were just like kind of going through the motions. Like it for me, it was still so surreal. Like after we posted on Instagram, our farewell message on that Monday, and we posted it at like 1 p.m., not even like,
Two.
or 2 p.m., not even like early in the morning, for people on Monday to,
Even
see
see
about it.
it.
Right. Yeah. And so by that dinner time, ramped up again. And then from that point, it just kept hitting, like
Yeah.
the blows just kept hitting, successfully, right? Like it was great financially. And we're just so grateful for the outpour of support and love, because it was our busiest week we've ever had, ever in
The history of
the
Smackin'.
history of Smackin', more than the very first week that we opened. And so um very overwhelming, the amount of support that we were able to get, all these years later. Really surreal, that people, we thought people kind of forgot about us, because it's been, kind of down for the past few months. And just, since the very beginning and through the pandemic and stuff, like we would hit these like super high moments, and then it would, drop back down. And then we'd always have to just continue to like navigate new waters and try to come up with new, fresh marketing ideas, and all of these, tactics and ways to just stay relevant, But this time we sent one post, and from that one post got just the busiest week we've ever had, and everyone sent us off so well.
Yeah.
We were able to close the doors on just the highest note possible, because that's the amount of support that we needed to make it through, and feel, good and confident kind of going into the next steps. We're now able to focus really on just what we have with the lab, and our next steps here. And yeah.
I'm already bawling right now. I'm like, I didn't prepare for this. I don't even have tissue.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone that may be watching this, that's been a customer of Smackin', friend, family, or even just, customer that became friend, that became family. We're just so grateful for all of you. And, the lab really wouldn't even be here if it weren't for Smackin', just a little transparency, right? We had, when it comes to the investment side of business, like this was a part of the decision, was to grow in our own gifts and bring something fresh, that really had us activated and multiplying in and through our gifts. And so that's where the lab really sprung from, was from that investment from Smackin', and to be able to walk away knowing that we did everything that we possibly could to give Smackin' the best kind of outcome that it could have, and create the impact in the community that we saw from the very beginning, and be that, hopefully it was that vessel of courage, right? For the Chamorro, the Black, the Samoan, the Filipino, the ethnic minority that, has grown up knowing military, go get a degree and get a good job, blue collar workers, white collar workers, that there's another option, there's more hope past just those things. And we hope that Smackin' was a part of that journey for some of you. Hopefully it lit a fire in you to go and pursue the calling that God had for you in entrepreneurship, in business stewardship. And that's really where Smackin', originally intended to be,
Yeah. Like Smackin' Smackin' was the image for it, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It was a vehicle that was used, and we call it like Smackin' was able to do this and Smackin' was able to do this, and it's definitely the image for it, but the heart behind it was for the Lord, and I think that's just a testament of when you are being obedient and you're just having faith, and you have faith in the Lord and you're walking with them and pursuing him with the things that he has blessed you with, he's going to use that to reach others.
Yeah.
And that's why I cry and I'm so emotional, because we have, through Smackin', we've been able to just do so much. And that's why I call it Smackin' in its completeness, because, well, one, the chapter is not really done because we are thinking of other things to do with Smackin', but in this time, I see it from beginning to end.
At this location.
Right? And all that was done and how many lives were affected, that we were able to make customers into family, and party with them and celebrate with other people and just being connected. And I see its journey, whether other people see it or not, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And just thank you and shout out to the Smackin' fam, especially all of our staff. I don't remember who we were talking to, but yeah, it was Jesse. But all of our staff throughout the years, because they definitely laid bricks, as well. And it helped us when we were kids. When I say kids, I'm talking about, when we started at 23 and now we're ending almost 30 at age 30. And even them, they've impacted us in some way. It's just been a journey of learning, learning, giving, connecting. It's been a great time.
Yeah. It gave us so many opportunities to learn, I have a lot of business background, because I started my first at 16, and it definitely never took that big leap, right? When it was like the vape business or barbering or DJing, those types of things. And so Smackin' was that big leap for me, to have a place where people can come to physically, see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, literally everything, right? And be kind of in that spotlight, where hopefully people can then respect me as, a business coach and help them to grow, because I want to advise people and help them get started in their own businesses, right? And so a lot of people might consider when a location closes that it was a failure, but that's not necessarily the case, right? This was a choice, a decision that we made, to pull back from Smackin' to focus on other endeavors, right? And you talked about having Smackin' be done in completeness is because we gave it all that we could. We literally put our blood, sweat, and tears, not to be, cliche, but we put our blood, sweat, and tears.
Do you know how many cuts I have on this hand?
You have a broken back.
A broken back, from my time at Smackin'.
Yeah.
Like literal tears in my back.
Yeah. A herniated disc, because of this restaurant for her. And even myself, I'm pretty sure I'm on the verge of herniating my disc because children. That one time I had to lift the fridge up to give it away, and didn't get any help to put that fridge in the trunk bed of that truck. And we gave away that fridge for free,
There's just so many stories.
But what's one of the many stories that you can recall that was either the most joyous or most, celebratory time that you loved about Smacking the most?
I would say kind of moving into COVID,
Mm-hmm.
it was a hard time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Financial is a hard time, but to be able to rally our friends who already were in their gifts and pursuing those endeavors. I was calling like Lou, Dre, Kiana, Malik, like let's just dance.
Yeah.
Can we dance through it? And it was, and that's that wasn't just those months. It was like the year,
Yeah.
right? Finding ways to get people through our doors, to keep our doors open, and it was bonding through the struggle. We're all going through something and throughout COVID, right? And I think just having the community support and seeing that was fun. It was fun. It was hard because people were leaving for whatever reason that they had, but we still had people behind us to come through and contribute in any way that they could. I also missed the after hours. After Smacking, we would have our dinner, our family dinner, with a crew that we used to have. When COVID happened, it was like less frequent until we stopped. I think those were my favorite days. I think of the original degreasers. I remember walking into the kitchen, because this is before we had a degreasing company come in, for our hood.
Yeah.
But, every Sunday, some of our crew would go, shout out Marvin, shout out Tayden, shout out Lost, Ethan, and they would be like scrubbing. And sometimes Tayden would take off his shirt and you just see grease running down his armpit. I have a picture somewhere, but those were the moments that I'm like, man, I love this place. I love the people.
Yeah.
And it's still like that, but differently. It looks a lot different now. What about you?
Yeah. I think my favorite moments in Smacking, definitely the Saturday, after hours closing with the team, was one of the tops. I mean, we got engaged through Smacking, like Smacking hit it off so well to start off that we were able to make enough to kind of cancel out all the debts that we had early. I was able to get you an engagement ring, get on, 92.5 and propose to you, at our time at the studio over there before we had this studio. Seeing us raise 3 kids from there, and being able to financially support them through that time, and seeing the impact that it did make on Aaliyah, at the very end, where she's like, you're closing Smacking, like I grew up out of there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the level of just dedication that we've put in throughout the years, and her knowing that we did what we could because she was there.
Yeah.
She saw it literally from 6 months old, was the day that we opened doors to the restaurant. $300 left in the bank account, and just risked it all, like literally risked it all. And yeah, there's so many different countless moments, like, seeing our loyal customers come and just sharing a meal with them. And just, I can literally see the smiles on their faces, as I talk about it. All the times that we spent with the staff members and, taking them out to dinners and, our holiday parties. Like, even though there was definitely a ton of turmoil, through the process, of course, we're talking about a restaurant business.
Yeah.
Okay? We're talking about a food industry business. Like, there's just so much that we had to sacrifice, but all the joy that came out of those sacrificial moments, it's countless, it's priceless, and I'm just super grateful.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm past the tears now.
Oh yeah, we cried.
Yeah.
After the dust settled from Sunday and people left and
We're cleaning up.
We're cleaning up, and by the end of cleaning up, we sat and we looked at the smacking sign, and we were going to make but we were taking a picture, and all of a sudden we just looked at it and we just started breaking down. More so Christian. At that time, it's taken me some time to really think about it and really see where my feelings lied and how I just process.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's one of the lessons that you have taken away from smacking that you can bring into this next chapter of our lives, with the lab or with MK Media, with our personal brands, social show? Like what's kind of that lesson, that overarching lesson or umbrella lesson that you can give away?
I think now that I've matured a little in from smacking, moving into the MK lab, I've really been just thinking about stewardship. Early on, when we were doing really well before the pandemic hit, I'm like, okay, now we have the funds to do this and that and this, and I think I spent a lot of finally trying to get the fruit of my labor back at that time, and so I think now it's looking at it. This is because I matured in my faith since then, where it's like, this is God's wealth. This isn't yours to keep, And I think Dave Ramsey said it too.
Yeah.
And that's where it really ingrained. Like, I really started to think of it that way. It's that this is all God's wealth.
Yeah.
And we're just keepers of it. We're just stewards of it for now before we pass it on.
Amen.
And that's really now what I carry. And I'm still trying to understand what that looks like in my daily habits, right? Where I'm like, I really want just a shirt to wear. I want this belt. Steph, you have like so many shirts to wear. Why are you always finding something new to have, when you've already been provided for? And you don't need that, but what you do need, X, Y, and Z, and starting to think of that and keeping track of my thoughts and where they go of either selfishness or self-centeredness or just I deserve, right? I've done so much. I am so exhausted. I deserve this and I deserve that. And, the list can go on, right? When you start pumping yourself up with that much, or just elevating your own self, right? And so that's what I've definitely learned is just trying to be a good steward and honoring what God has provided you already and using that because you've already you have your fill already, and what is God doing right now for you so you can bless others, so you can be that vehicle, that blessing for others, and to serve others. That's where I'm at right now.
It's good.
What about you?
Yeah, I would say kind of on the same page. Just stewardship, I think, is really the ultimate thing, that we aren't business owners, that we are business stewards, and that time can literally come to an end, where it's like God has other plans. So even though you had this grand idea that this was going to turn into a franchise or a chain, or people investing from outside investments and being this quote unquote household name, right? Like Smackin' in itself is an acronym, right? Pseudo Mesa Authentic Tomorrow Kitchen. And so seeing the Pseudo Mesa name kind of be on this pedestal because, like on Guam, that name is really like not really that big, and so wanted to be able to grow it in that way. That was a desire of mine, was to really give the name spotlight,
Mm.
for my grandma's sake, for my family's sake, and also just like it be this you know multi-million-dollar company or billion-dollar company one day, right? That people want to invest into, and God just had other plans to do with it, and we in our own self had to release that and surrender that, because we aren't making all of the decisions. Like, if we are truly rooted in our faith, then we are being led and steered by God, right? And so whatever he wants to do with it, like, it's his,
Mm.
right? It's his to do with it. And we prayed, and we'll pray the selfish prayer of like, God, provide for it in this way and do this and that, right? But it's like, no, like, what about listening, hearing from God, like, okay, God, what do you want to do with this business? God, how do you see Smackin' advancing, or are we releasing Smackin', right? And I think that's one thing when it comes to being a Christian entrepreneur, right? Like, I have to be obedient and humble to even think in that type of manner, right? And so seeing our faith explode would be the biggest lesson that I take away from this, is you have to trust God. You have to trust God in your business. You have to be led by the Holy Spirit in your business, and every single step and direction, and that it really boils down to just stewardship, stewardship over the assets that are there for you, right? It's a business. Stewardship over yourself, like your physical health, mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, and then also financial health. And then also, like, the business doesn't come before anything. Like, your relationship with God needs to come first, and then your relationship with your spouse, right? Then your children. Like, these are your first ministries, and then the other things, right? Those were things that at different points we considered it sacrifices, right? But not knowing that God had it all planned from the very beginning, and we just had to be obedient and trusting that, like, yeah, we do have our daily bread, and so that's just like my prayer every single day. Like, thank you, God, for our daily bread.
Right.
Thank you for what we do have now. So yeah, those are like the top lessons that I can take away from Smackin', and I hope it encourages someone else that's a Christian entrepreneur, and or someone trying to grow in their faith. Yeah.
Did you change anything in your journey leading up to today?
Would I change anything? I mean, if I could do like a rewind button and fix all my mistakes, I mean, of course, like, that's what I would do with it. But would I
not do Smack? Would you still do Smackin'?
But would I still do Smackin'? Of course I would still do Smackin'. Like, that was Holy Spirit led,
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, I wanted to have a barbershop. I wanted to go to barber school. I was supposed to open a barbershop, with Angel, and he's doing extremely well as a barber and stuff. And we just had to go through this own, season of life, and chapter in our life where we made this decision, this choice to be obedient and to follow this game plan. Now looking back with just like how the business planning to, the the birth of our child, and then searching for locations, and then doing construction, and then launching all within 6 months, 6.5 months.
We acquired the keys on April 11th, right?
I believe,
because that's when I took that picture, and I was like, "We got the keys to the city. No need a limousine."
Yeah.
But that's when I took the picture.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if I posted that day or the next day.
Uh-huh.
But then thinking about that, we got the keys in April 11th, right after we didn't have an anniversary yet. And then opening by June 28th. And if you've ever seen any of our posts about how Smackin' looked beforehand when it was a different restaurant, we did a lot.
We gutted the whole place. Yeah. Finest City Construction.
Yeah. They put in a lot of work and they did really well.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, you were there like days and nights. And I'm like with our 4-month-old, 5-month-old. And I'm like, where are you?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm doing work. I'm making sure that we're able to do this because Christian, one thing is that when he commits to a plan, he's really going after it. You're really doing it. And sometimes even in that time, I was like, no, you need to be home because we got a child, not I got a child, but you were still so present too,
Mm-hmm.
in Aaliyah's like early life, and then we started to bring her there when it was safe to do so.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to finish that thought. It's just wow when I'm trying to tell this story, but I'm also thinking about X, Y, and Z of how we even got there and then to opening doors.
Like we literally went from conception to, operating within 6.5 months when normally like even a Jack in the Box or something takes like a year just for planning out, scoping out the location, getting plans submitted, everything, right? It takes them like over a year. And we did that with our very first like leap of faith, and so like that's how I know it was spirit led. Bless you.
Yeah, I coughed.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That's how I know it's spirit led because that wasn't of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no idea how to write out this business plan. I never wrote out a business plan, like I'm just the garage entrepreneur before that,
MG.
Yeah. It was just the MG, and then I became a project manager. Did that help? Possibly. But yeah, to just like hit every single, and even just in that, like writing out my SMART goals, right? Like it was land a lease by the end of February. I signed the lease on February 28th, 2019.
And we were going all over San Diego, just sitting and waiting to see the foot traffic.
Yeah.
And we're camping out at all times of the day at different locations. And then we found Bon Me.
Yeah. Bon. Someone's hungry. But yeah, that's, that's all, God be the glory on that, and I'm just grateful to step into this next chapter, going all in on our faith, seeking first the kingdom and his righteousness, and letting all these other things that come to be, as God permits and as God wills. And I'm grateful for you and allowing me to be led by God and lead you as our head of house and as my spouse, and just knowing that at the end of the day, I have my Ezer, I have my helper, I have my helpmate, I have my aid, my rescue, my strong supporter in my corner that's going to battle, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially with me, and willing to ride every single wave that comes with it. And so, yeah, here we are. Cheers.
I love you.
I love you too. Cheers to 1 year here at the lab. Here's to more consistency with It's About Graham Time, and make sure you follow us at It's About Graham Time, at the MK Lab, and at Merakairos Media, where we're going to be just going all in on these next steps and just following God's call. Follow us at Christian N. Graham and at Stephanie Graham to see what we do in our personal brands, not just our business brands that we have. Anything else that you wanted to add before we close out this one? And
No.
yeah.
Just thank you. Thank you and thank you. Fa'afetai lava siju usmasi.
Yeah.
Gracias.
All right. Well, it's about Graham time. We hop on out of this episode. I'm your host, Christian Graham.
And Stephanie Graham.
And we'll catch y'all on the next one. God bless.
Bye.
Peace.
That's a millennial thing. We can't do peace. That shows our age. I have peace.
Cheers.